Hi, so today is about the SUQQU 2020 Holiday Eyeshadow Compact and a blush. This is not the UK exclusive ones. This is the, I believe, the everywhere, all over around the world edition of their 2020 holiday release. Shiny black packaging with a golden edge, I would say, and there's 8 shades in here. 2 little brush. These 6 shades are all metallics or at least a shimmer shades, and these 2 looks like satin shades or matte shades. So let's swatch this. And I think this is like a quad, like this, a cooler quad and a warmer quad. I think that's how it is designed, but I'm not sure. So I'm gonna swatch like this in this kind of way. Cooler side. Oh, it's quite pigmented, I would say, and it goes quite a long way. Oh, this shade is very beautiful, the silvery shade, and this is the blue-ish kind of shade. But I think on the skin doesn't look that blue as it was in the palette. It's like more of a neutral kind of shade. It's more of a purpley kind of shades. And also the silver shades doesn't look that silver on the skin. Maybe because it's not it doesn't have much of a base shade. And the warmer side looks like this. These 2 shades looks like they are mattes. And this is the champagne shade, the orange shade, the reddish shade. This shade is beautiful. And the darker brown. So let's have a look at this blush. I think they had 2 blushes. One is cooler toned blush, and one like more of a mauve kind of blush, and one is a more warmer yellowish brownish kind of color. The yellowish color I couldn't get that one because it's out of stock. So what I have is the cooler toned mauve color. I think it's like a matte or satin blush with a champagne kind of highlighter. Let's swatch it. Quite muted colors, I would say. Let's just start to put them on our face. This lighter matte shade on my eyes as a base or like a transition kind of color, and I have a little bit concealer as base on my eyelid. First impression, I think these shadows are not that pigmented, but they are very easy to blend, and you can build the color to a more pigmented level. And it doesn't have any fallout. You can see this 0 fallout. So I think that's good. Maybe because it's more of a baked kind of formula. And I think I'm layering this shadow like 10 times. And this is the color that I get. So I think it's a quite sheer formula, this matte shadow. I think when it comes to Japanese brand eyeshadows, people always complain about there's no matte shades, it's all shimmers, because that's just how our what our agent like. We just like shimmer shades, purplish, pinkish purplish color on the center of my eyelid with my finger. Oh, it has a little bit fallout. I think this is also a more sheer kind of finish. Maybe I need to wet this shadow a little bit. Yeah, this way it's much more pigmented. Actually, I don't mind it is a little bit more sheer, because sometimes I actually like a little like formula that's a little sheer, because I think it's more easy to use, more foolproof for me. This darker bluish purplish kind of color on the outer corner. I think this one is much more pigmented when you use it dry, because now it's dry. I didn't wet my eyeshadow brush, but it's quite pigmented on my eye. Yeah, this one also become more pigmented when you use it with the setting spray. Yeah, let's use this red shadow on the inner corner. Actually, I'm not trying to do a like pretty look or anything. I just want to show these shadows. I don't know if you can see, but this reddish shadow are actually quite pigmented. Like when you use it dry. Don't know if you can tell, but I think it's quite pigmented. So let's wet it a little bit. Now again, it's more pigmented. It's more pigmented this way. No change to that. And because I think the edge is quite harsh and unblended, I'm gonna take this orange, this lighter matte shades to blend the edge a little bit, because it's a little bit messy right now. On the outer corner to give the eye a little bit more dimension, I'm taking quite a bit of the shadow, because it's actually a little bit hard to get the product on your brush. Plus the shadow is a little bit more on the sheer side. I think you can see it better on the lower lash line. That's the color. This is the color payoff of this darker brown shadow. There are two more glittery kind of shades. I want to try this formula as well, so taking a little bit of the silver shade on the center. Oh my god, there's quite a bit of fallout. Oh, this shadow is quite intense, and maybe it's better to use it wet as well because the fallout is quite intense. Actually, I think I got something in my eye. Oh, this silver shade is super pretty, right? Super pretty to shine, especially when I'm using it wet. It's fitting on the eyelid so perfectly. It's so beautiful. The shine is so intense, it's covering all the color underneath this shade. But I still think it looks nice. I finished my eye. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but for this eye, I didn't wet any shadows. I just apply and layer them carefully with a brush, a synthetic hair brush. And I think this eye definitely is more pigmented than this eye, but I still think this side looks quite nice. It's just like a chic way of wearing shimmer shadows, to wear it in a more sheer way. But I have to say, just for one shadow, this bluish shadow, you have to be super careful because the fallout is quite intense. I don't think you can tell, but this area, I have a lot of fallout on here. But it's like all like a little shimmer bits, so it's doesn't, you can't tell it's that much, but it's there. So maybe if you use using this blue shadow, maybe use a very little amount of it, or use it wet, or you apply foundation first. No, you apply your eyeshadow first, and then you clean up your under eye and you apply the foundation after that. In this shadow, this silver glittery shadow, at first it applied quite with quite a bit of fallout when I was applying this with this eye. But when I was applying on this eye using a brush, because I know this one has quite much of fallout, so I didn't get that much product. I just get a little bit on the brush with like a light one dip on the pen, and I carefully apply it on my eye, and I layered it once more, and it works quite nice with no fallout. So I guess you just have to be more careful and use less product with this glittery shade, and it works beautiful. Yeah. So I think what my review are a little bit all over the place. Overall thought on this palette is, I think it's a nice palette. I don't think it's a bad palette at all, but it's just um, depending on what you like and what you need. I think it's a nice everyday shadow if you don't mind your eyeshadows not super pigmented, because especially these two matte shadow, they are quite sheer. If you like a more sheer, more foolproof kind of eyeshadow, I think this palette is quite nice. And the shimmery shades are quite beautiful, and these one are quite pigmented as well. So I think it works nice, but I don't think it's something that you definitely need. But at the same time, I think if you want to get it and you don't mind the pigmentation or the fallout that this shadow has, you won't be very disappointed. Yeah. Blush. This is a highlighter brush, but I think it works. A little bit of only the blush shade. And I'm applying it on the apple of my cheeks. For some reason, the color shows more on the camera than it shows on my face actually in real life. I think it's just this camera catches more like cooler pinky tone than other tones. Just the camera is doing the weird thing. It's nice, easy to blend, easy to use formula. So I don't think it's bad. And I want to mix these two and layer it on top to see if it changes anything. I think it just adds a little bit sheen on your cheek. Yeah, that's all it does. Let's only use this highlighter. I don't think this one works that nice as a highlight. It kind of emphasize a little bit of my skin texture a little bit in real life. When it mixed with this matte blush, I think because the blush part is matte, so it just give you a subtle sheen and doesn't give you the texture. But when you apply it on itself, it definitely emphasizing a little bit of the texture. I want to try to use this champagne color to as a highlighter, just a little bit of product. I think the eyeshadow works much better than the actual highlighter on the face. It doesn't emphasize your texture that much. And let's try the gold one, because the gold one seems like a good color for your cheek as well. Oh yeah, this gold one is a beautiful color as well. This gold actually has a little bit of pinkish kind of shift that you cannot really tell from the pan, but it do have a little bit pinky shift, and that actually just make it works quite nice as a highlight. And actually quite pleased with the look. The golden eyeshadow works so beautifully as a highlighter. I'm quite pleased. Fenty, the Fuzzy Gloss, because I think this collection also has lip colors as well, but I didn't get it because right now I don't really use lipsticks because I'm wearing a mask most of the time. This is the look. I think the eyeshadow works quite nice, but just didn't really, the only thing I didn't really like is just the highlighter on this blush duo. Mix these two I don't really mind, but the highlighter on this side on its own, it just doesn't work well for me. And the eyeshadow, like I said, I think it's a nice palette, and even those two shades works quite nice as eyeshadow, as highlighters, and they also works quite beautifully as eyeshadow. So if you love SUQQU and you want to get this palette and you don't mind your eyeshadow to be a little bit sheer, I think you won't be regret of getting this. But I don't think anybody really needs this palette because it's not a special enough palette. The only thing I can say is just it's beautiful. I quite like it. I don't regret of buying it, and that's all. And I actually kind of a little bit regret that I get the blush, because the color is just a color that's not that special. I have a lot of this kind of color, and the highlighter side I don't really like. So yes, that's my review of the SUQQU 2020 holiday collection. Thank you for watching. Bye.